I know there will be a lot of discussion today about the politics of all this, about who won and who lost. But that discussion completely misses the point. Whatever the politics, today's decision was a victory for people all over this country whose lives will be more secure because of this law and the Supreme Court's decision to uphold it. If you're one of the more than 250 million Americans who already have health insurance, you will keep your health insurance. This law will only make it more secure and more affordable. Insurance companies can no longer impose lifetime limits on the amount of care you receive. They can no longer discriminate against children with pre-existing conditions. They can no longer drop your coverage if you get sick. They can no longer jack up your premiums without reason. They are required to provide free preventive care like checkups and mammograms. Young adults under the age of 26 are able to stay on their parents' health care plans. Seniors receive a discount on their prescription drugs. And by this August, nearly 13 million of you will receive a rebate from your insurance company because it spent too much on things like administrative costs and CEO bonuses and not enough on your health care. All of this is happening because of the Affordable Care Act. Today, I'm as confident as ever that when we look back 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, we'll be better off because we had the courage to pass this law and keep moving forward.
Yes, we are back here on WLTH 1370 AM, 92.7 in the FM dial. It is 7:17 in the PM here on March the 28th, 2025. Yes, man, this year is speeding by. I swear it's almost time for everybody to pay their taxes. Yeah. You got to the 15th, so you got about 18 days, 17, 18 days to get everything in order. That's what I'm doing. I'm sweating it out. You gonna have to too. If I gotta sweat it out, so do you. All right, folks. As you heard in the video, that was our former President Barack Obama talking about the implementation of one of the most important programs in modern American history, the Affordable Care Act. On March 23rd, 2010, the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare, became law in these here United States of America. Together with the Healthcare and Education Reconciliation Act of 2010 amendment, it represents the U.S. healthcare system's most significant regulatory overhaul and expansion of coverage since the enactment of Medicare and Medicaid in 1965. Most of the Act's provisions are still in effect. The law included some long overdue reforms. The law did include some reforms that really did need to happen. The ACA's major provisions came into force by 2014, and by 2016, the uninsured share of the population had roughly been cut in half, with estimates ranging from 20 to 24 million additional people being covered. The law also enacted a host of delivery system reforms that was set to constrain healthcare costs and improve quality. Okay, we'll see about that. After it went into effect, increases in overall healthcare spending slowed down, including premiums for employer-based insurance plan. So first and foremost, I think it's important to understand what Obamacare was. It was a plan from the Heritage Foundation. Now, what is the Heritage Foundation? If you listen to the show regularly, you know the Heritage Foundation is a right-wing think tank that really, their goal is to privatize virtually all segments of the public sector. And so the Heritage Foundation, this right-wing think tank, came up with the idea, and this isn't me saying it, Barack Obama himself, out of his mouth, said that it was a plan from the Heritage Foundation. He said that, not me. He said that. And the Republican governor of Massachusetts, Mitt Romney, was actually the first one to implement a system similar to Obamacare, which is why a lot of people called it Romneycare. You know, called Obama Romneycare. Now, what was the purpose of the Obamacare program? It was not to cover everybody or to cover as many people as possible. It was specifically to squash the thirst for a universal health care system or a public option system, which is what Barack Obama ran on. He ran on, if you like your doctor, you could keep him. It was a public option system. And he ran specifically against the idea of a universal health care system, which is, I have to remind you guys time and time again, every country in the developed world has a universal health care system except the United States of America. These right-wing influencers and corporate puppets of the establishment in the Democrat and Republican Party act like this is such a complex, oh my God, it's such a complex situation. How we could never in a million years have a universal health care, single-payer universal health care system while we watch everybody else do something like that and similar. And then they go, oh, well, you know, if we do that, then the waiting times in Canada, a lot of times they have to wait months to see a doctor. And you go, okay, well, Americans regularly go years without seeing a doctor at all. At least in Canada, you know you will eventually see a doctor. And I'm somebody who's talked about my health care woes when I was younger, in my 20s especially, on this show. I couldn't afford to go to a doctor, so I ended up going to I ended up going to the emergency room, and that ended up costing me thousands of dollars, which destroyed me economically and financially. And then you have countries that have shorter waiting times than America does, like Switzerland and Germany. They have shorter waiting times than America does. And they have universal health care. So, again, the whole mandate, Barack Obama used his mandate. He had the biggest majority that any Democrat had in 75 years when he got in office. The biggest mandate any Democrat had in 75 years when he got in office, to not push for universal health care, to not push for even a public option, but to push for a plan written that was basically conjured up by the Heritage, the right-wing Republican Heritage Foundation, and implemented by a right-wing Republican governor named Mitt Romney. Now, when Obama campaigned for the U.S. Senate in Illinois, he ran on single-payer universal health care and promised that a system would be possible once the Democrats got in power in 2004, 2006. But then once he got elected to Congress, he said, well, I didn't, he pretended he didn't campaign on that. And his reasoning for saying that was that he was concerned about protecting insurance industry jobs. He told that to The Lever's David Sirota. On a quick side note, The Lever is a great news website. You guys should look into it. Leave the corporate media alone. The Lever is independently funded, not a corporate news site. They do a lot of good work. David Sirota is a really good journalist. He really is. He does a lot of good work. So anyway, when Barack Obama told David Sirota some years ago that he was concerned about protecting insurance industry jobs. So that was his excuse for not pushing for universal health care. Then in 2009, Barack Obama's new presidential administration officially declared that any single payer news proposals, any single payer insurance proposals would not be considered in the health care policy debate, which was damaging. Again, if your stance is that Obamacare was just a band-aid, a way to get from point A to point B, wouldn't you be using your time in office to advocate for universal health care? And just saying, well, you know, we're right here, but we will allow others to come in and sort of build off of what we're doing and make the system even more accessible to the average everyday person. Again, every other first world country has figured this out. Every single one of them. Not a single one of them have had their public vote for a system like ours. Regularly, U.S. News and other healthcare journals and everything else regularly decry that Americans die a lot sooner than people in other first world countries, specifically because we have such a fragmented healthcare system. So why would you not, if you're concerned about that, do something to rectify that problem other than just saying, well, this is just what we have right now? So now the irony about this is that the Republicans, who are the ones who conjured up the Affordable Care Act, or at least the bare bones of it, and Mitt Romney, who implemented it in Massachusetts, at that point, then they had to pretend that it was a completely bad policy, even though they themselves are the ones who conjured it up. And in the case of Mitt Romney, he's the one who actually implemented it. Mitt Romney ran in 2012 attacking his own health care plan. Which again is why I tell you guys on a weekly basis, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot become so enmeshed in these and identify so much with these parties. These people literally believe nothing. They have no values. They have no morals. They have no beliefs. They are not Republicans. They are not Democrats. They are just tools of the establishment. That's it. Both parties. We see this regularly, where people run against things that they supported 5 years ago, or 2 years ago, or even a year ago, just because, well, my party doesn't like it now. Well, my party doesn't like Obamacare now. They don't like the Affordable Care Act now that a Democrats implemented it, so now I have to argue against it. That makes zero sense, but again, it makes sense if you understand what our political system is here in this country, which is just merely a distraction to keep working class people divided. They are playing with you. They are playing in your face. And situations like this just show you. Mitt Romney has to argue against his own health care plan because somebody else just happened to implement it from the other party. It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. Now, as I said, since Obamacare passed, the number of uninsured Americans has been cut in half, almost cut in half. But at the same time, the largest insurers have raked in over $370 billion in profits. And the average employer-based premium for a family has jumped all the way to $26,000. Yes.
Money, money, money.
Yes, it has never been a better time to be in an insurance industry because they are making historic profits. This is why when Obamacare passed in 2009, all the stocks of the insurance companies exploded. Like immediately, the next day, it was like, good God, this is going to be a bonanza for us. And insurance plans that are purchased on the Obamacare exchanges are now denying 1 out of every 5 medical claims. Think about that. They are denying 20% of the medical claims that they are seeing. Also, Obamacare has ushered in the consolidation of healthcare industry conglomerates. They have more power now, more power to fleece their customers. They fleece you on insurance. They fleece you on hospital services. They fleece you on prescription drug prices. So this is where we're at now. 15 years in, you might have insurance, but it might not mean anything. This is how you end up with situations like the Luigi Mangione situations. This was a kid who came from a rich family and was struggling. Even a rich kid his whole life was struggling with these health insurance companies and dealing with back pain. So allegedly, he decided to take matters into his own hands. And much to the surprise of everybody in the media and in corporate America, much of the public supports Luigi Mangione. There are now murals of Luigi Mangione all over the country and all over the world. Not because people like murder. People don't like murder. People don't like murderers. But that's why they hate the insurance companies. The insurance companies are literally condemning people to die. They are literally condemning people to die. One of the saddest things I saw after the Luigi Mangione situation was I actually saw, I went to, I think the man's name is Chris Thompson, that was killed allegedly by Luigi Mangione. I believe it was Chris Thompson, who was the head of United Healthcare Insurance. And I went to his LinkedIn profile because I'm on LinkedIn. Follow me on LinkedIn. You can, I'm on there all the time as well. And the comments in his LinkedIn were just basically people begging and pleading, please, you guys denied my wife. One of the saddest ones was this dude who was begging. He was saying, my wife has cancer. We have 5 children. You denied your company denied the procedure that she would need to keep living. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these 5 kids if my wife dies. That's the type of stuff that was being written in the comments of Mr. Thompson's LinkedIn profile. People begging. Basically begging for their lives and for the lives of their loved ones. Meanwhile, if those people lived in any other first world country, they would be taken care of. It's a sick system run by sick people. And unfortunately, Obamacare did not do much to change the system. It's sort of symbolic of Barack Obama's presidency as a whole. He was elected to be a change agent. People wanted him to be radical. People wanted that. That's why they voted for the black guy with the Muslim name. If people wanted the same thing, they would have voted for Hillary Clinton or John McCain. They voted for Barack Obama because they thought he was everything that the Republicans were saying he was. They thought he was this radical guy. This is why they keep voting for Donald Trump. There is a great hunger and a great desire for somebody to be a bull in a china shop and completely wreck this system, but we just keep getting puppets who maintain the status quo in both parties. And so they just keep vacillating. You vote for a guy on the left to change everything, and then he doesn't do it, and so you vote for the guy on the right who says he's going to change everything, and he doesn't do it, and then you go back to the left, and then you vote. You know, ultimately, this reminds me of George Carlin back in the day. The great George Carlin talked about this many years ago. When he talked about how they're going to come and get everything, and how there's just an illusion of choice in this country.
The interesting thing about this country is they talk about how we have freedom of choice. Mm-hmm. You know, we have freedom of choice. Yeah. Very limited. If it's an important thing, limited choice. Two political parties, essentially, two. Big media companies, 5, 6.
Max.
Yeah. Oil companies down to 3 now, I think, overall, 3 or 4. Banks, the big brokerage houses, the big accounting firms. All the things that are important reduced in choice. Newspapers in a city, how many? Used to be 3, 4. Now it's 1 or 2 that are owned by the same people, and they also own a radio station and a TV station. But jelly beans, 32 flavors. Ice cream, all the things that don't matter. The unimportant things, a lot of choices. And you know what I say? You know what your freedom of choice is in America? Paper or plastic. That's it, man. It comes down to paper or plastic, cash or charge, aisle or window, smoking or non-smoking, Coke or Pepsi. These are your choices. Everything else is kind of laid out for you. You get to do what they really want. They do what they want. The ones who own this country, they do what they want.
Yep. There you go. Let me get this caller. Thank you, caller, for waiting 14 minutes. What's up? Oh, my bad. What's up?
I like what George Carlin said about what our most famous product is. We sell one thing better than anybody else on the planet.
And what is that?
It's called bullcrap.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
We're the best at it in the world.
Yep.
You know, everything you're talking about is it so needs to be a routine conversation. The Patriot Act, right, was supposed to sunset after a great danger of time, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, it never did sunset. And who's responsible for that? Our last president, Mr. Biden and John Ashcroft.
Yep.
So they were concerned as equal rights as any of these guys in charge now. Actually, the disguise is, you know, our politics is like theatrics.
Yep.
Right. It just is, and we're symbolic. I mean, we don't really care about reality. You have to believe in my symbolic reality. Otherwise, you're a bad person. Mm-hmm. You know, but this is so interesting. President Trump's 2025 program came from the Heritage Foundation, which are Christian nationalists.
Yeah.
You know,
and so did Obamacare.
You say that's right, of course. That's, you know, if you go back to go to cspan.org and you go to our archives, you could hear a lot of this stuff on the Senate or on the House floor or in arguments in Supreme Court stuff. I mean, we've been moving the. You know, it's so crazy. Democrats are supposed to be a working man's party, right? Working class party. Well, they strangled the working class a long time ago.
Yeah,
and
they
they
did.
became Reaganomics, and
Yep.
that's Wall Street and corporate America.
Yep.
And what's called what do you call it? Venture capitalism,
Yep.
where you gobble up people's lifetime careers and you sell it you basically sell it pennies on a dollar, make the people rich. However, you gut the place. That's what they do. They buy stuff and they extract the wealth from it, and then they walk away from it.
Yep. Well, thank you for your call, bro. I got another caller on the line, but
Yes.
thank you for
a lot.
calling.
Yeah.
Hello, caller. What's up?
Hello, Scott. How you doing?
Hey.
Now, listen. I've been listening to this about the insurance and all that kind of thing. But I'm just saying now, what is Donald Trump doing toward people's health care?
Donald Trump?
He's doing.
Donald Trump.
He's trying to take everything you got away. And I'm saying that you know what? I hate to say this, but you know what? I would rather have something than nothing.
And that's the problem. That's the problem that Americans have.
And that's what I'm saying. So they don't have anything. So better for them to have something than nothing. Because you know what?
Yeah, but but that mentality is why we're stuck.
Okay, but here's the thing: when you go to the doctor, tomorrow. They want to know where's your insurance.
Yeah.
If you go in the hospital tomorrow, they want to know where's your insurance. So what do you tell them? What do you tell them? I'm waiting.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is the problem. We have to demand better.
Who are we going to demand it from?
Well, when we vote, we demand that.
Okay,
let me finish. When we vote, we tell these people they're not going to get our vote. I have not voted for somebody who doesn't support universal health care in at least the last three cycles. I won't vote for anybody. If everybody else said the same thing, if everybody else did the same thing, they would have no choice.
Who would have the person that's running? You mean?
Yes, the people who are running would have no choice but to support a single-payer universal health care plan if people refuse to vote for them if they weren't offering it. But since they know that you guys will vote for them no matter what they do, they don't have to do no better by us.
Okay, so but what I'm saying to you, Scott, though, seriously,
yes.
What do you do when you have to go into a hospital tomorrow?
What do you mean? What do I do? What does that mean?
I'm saying they ask you
what everybody else is doing. Pray. What everybody else is doing. Pray. That's what everybody else is doing.
You know what? See, like right now, because I get Social Security right now, and I have insurance, so it's not a problem for me. But I'm talking about the younger people that's not able to get their Social Security at this point.
Pray. Like I said, you're gonna have to pray, because ultimately, like I said, the way the system works is that you're going, even with the system that we have currently, you might get denied anyway. That's why that dude shot the healthcare CEO. Allegedly. Let's just say allegedly, because he hasn't been convicted. He might not have done it, but it is believed that he shot him for that reason. And it's unfortunate because, again, Americans don't demand better.
Okay, well, we have to do that. But
yes, but thank you for your call. I got to go to a break.
Okay, take care, Scott.
It's all good. All right, folks, it is 7:44. Crap, I talked right past the break. I love talking to you guys. We talked right past the break, 7:44. Please stay with us here on WLTH 1370 AM. When we come back, I swear, good news. We will have good news when we come back.